So today we're going to go through all the steps of determining what my center to centers are and using a load stick. In today's world, if you buy like a name brand store-bought chassis, they're going to give you center to center on your shock dimensions and what those load numbers should be. If you've built your car at home from scratch, or the chassis builder that built the car is out of business or doesn't have that information, these are going to be the steps that you'll go through to determine what the original center to centers will be and then how far we need to travel it. And then from there you can adjust your load numbers using our wireless load stick. So first and foremost, you need to go through the car, make sure the car is completely ready to go on the scales, scale the car, get all your ride heights where they should be. You're going to do that with the shocks not attached, without a load stick attached, just basically all the springs will be in the car. Again, you're going to figure out what the ride heights are. So if you don't know what your ride heights are, here's an easy way to figure out what they should be. So on the right front, we're going to measure from the ground to where the ball joint meets the ball joint ring on the lower control arm. So in this case, we're 8 inches. Now, we'll go in here to our inner pivot for our lower control arm. We'll measure from the ground to the center of that bolt. So in this case, we're at 7 1/4 right now. So what that tells me is I need to get more ride height in the right front. So we'll put rounds in the weight jack bolt and we'll raise that ride height to where typically we want to see either that number on the inner pivot the same as this outer number, or this outer number being about 1/4 inch longer than the inner pivot. You never want to have the outer ball joint ring closer to the ground than the inner pivot. You always want to have the right front up or level. So now that you've kind of done that adjustment and figured out that, hey, I've got 8 inches now on that outer mark. On my inner mark, I have 7 7/8. So now I have the right front is compressed about 1/8 of an inch higher up than what the inner pivot is. So that's a good ride height to start with on the right front. Same thing on the left front. We'll measure from the ground to that ball joint point and the ground to the inner pivot point. And on the left front, we try to get those perfectly level. So now that we've got the front end set as far as ride height goes, again, we're on the scales. We went around the car. We get wedged where we want in the car. We get all of our percentages and everything that we want in the car. Now we've got the ride heights set where we want them to be. So now to start using the load stick, you're going to go in the right front, you're going to measure from center to center of your shock mount. So in this case here, we're 17 1/4. So that's always going to be my ride height position. 17 1/4 is always going to be one of my starting points while using the load stick. You'll do the same thing on the left front. You'll measure that center to center. Let's just say it's 16 inches. That's always going to be your starting point for the load stick. So now, everybody's a little different with how much do we travel the right front? What's our bottom number travel supposed to be? That's something that you're going to have to determine depending on how the car is built and things like that. But a good rule of thumb is we'll compress this to where the lower control arm is just almost bottomed out on the frame rail. So we'll go ahead and compress this. In most cases, this ends up being about 3 to 3.5 inches. Again, it just depends on the car build and the entire setup. So now if we measure that center to center point, we're at 14 3/4. So basically we've moved it about 3 inches. So we're right at the point of bottoming out on this lower control arm in the frame. We're right at the point of bottoming out here. So that travel number now will be your bottom number for your right front. So always 14 3/4 is the point you're going to go back to every time for your bottom number. So in this case here, I've got a 500-pound spring. I moved all of my load or all my travel. I can now use the load stick and see that I have 940 pounds of load at my bottom travel. So now from here, you can say, well, I want to change springs. So we unload this. We can pop the spring out. Let's say now we're going to put a 650 in it. Change the spring. We'll travel back up to that bottom number again. And there's a couple things that you have to decide, and this is totally up to the racer and what you're trying to accomplish. You have to decide, okay, do I leave my bottom number at that 940 pounds? Or do I say, hey, I want to really increase that number. I'm bottoming out a lot. I've got too much travel in the right front. So I'm going to bump that bottom number up. Or it could be a case, hey, I'm really high in the front end, but I feel like I need a stiffer right front spring for this style of track. So at that point, you want to take that 940 number and you may even soften that because you're going to have a lot more rate progression as the car travels. So that's kind of where you're building your notes and building your notebook comes in to getting this whole system to work. So now, again, we've changed the spring. I go back up to my travel. So now if I remeasure this, I'll be at the 14 3/4. So now we change the spring. My load number now is 900 pounds. I know at least I want to get back up to that 940. I may want to be at 1,000. So from there, you simply put rounds in your weight jack bolt. That loads the spring, adds load to the system. You can sit there and you can watch your number on your app go up to whatever number you desire at that point. So those are kind of the steps. If you have zero information, you have zero starting points, any kind of numbers or anything like that, those are kind of the steps that you'll go through to determine where you need to be at when using a load stick.